Hi, so this is me, Ivana, and I'm a graduate of UCL of the subject named BA Language and Culture, and this video is for prospective applicants and prospective students that are considering this subject. I studied this subject between 2011 and 2015, so as you can see, I have been out of university for a couple of years, so some information may not be, up to date. So what I will mostly discuss is how I have enjoyed the course and some, general nature of the course. And obviously you can go and consult the official pages of UCL to check which specific courses are on offer and what other requirements there are. So I will mostly speak from my experience that I had at the time, and hopefully I will encourage you to pursue this course, and hopefully this will answer your questions that you might have. And obviously if you have any further questions, you can drop a comment under this video, and to the best of my knowledge I will answer them. So in general, language and culture course is a language degree that is offered at UCL. At the time I was applying, it was the most flexible subject offered at UCL. Nowadays there are probably more flexible courses like liberal arts and probably some others, but in 2011 it was really the most flexible subject. What I mean by the most flexible subject, it meant that you not only studied one language, but you could pick up to 2 other languages. So, and you could switch between them. So it was really flexible, because if you knew you wanted to study languages but you weren't completely sure which languages would be the best, you could study this subject and just choose specific languages throughout the duration of your degree. So that was really good about it, and this is the reason which drew me to the course, because at the time I knew I wanted to study languages, but I wasn't 100% sure, and I really wanted to have, lots of options available to me. So when I was applying, I obviously applied via UCAS, as for any other British undergrad degrees, and I applied for language courses in general and some language courses with linguistics as well, because I was really interested in linguistics. I still am. So I talked about my multi-ethnic experience, because I come from a multi-ethnic family. I talked about my trip to Spain, and I also talked about a linguistic research project where I participated. I was actually just, a subject. I was just a speaker. I wasn't a researcher, but it was fun anyway. So I mentioned my experience in my personal statement, and obviously I had to supply, references and my predicted results and, language tests, because I was an international applicant. So, these language tests were compulsory. So I sent my application at some point in September, and I waited about half a year to receive my offer. The good thing about being an international applicant is that you don't need, or I didn't need to go for an interview, because domestic applicants had to go to London and be interviewed. So I just got an email that they offered me a place, and if I really wanted, I could go to London and be interviewed, but it wasn't compulsory for me. So that was good. So I knew I had my offer and I didn't have to travel abroad. So because I didn't study A-levels or IB or whatever, I can't really comment on what is expected of English or British applicants in general. Again, these things are mentioned at the pages, at the web pages, but in general it differs, and there are people who were accepted even though they didn't meet the required grades. But then again, I can't really say if anyone who is made an offer is accepted even though they don't need their offer, or if it hasn't changed throughout the years. But there's always a hope, so I would say definitely, if you are interested in this kind of degree, then definitely do apply. So now to the course. In the first year, you have a core course, then you obviously do your main language, and then you do your minor language, and then you do light courses. What I mean by this is that you need to pick at least half a unit, that means one term course, that is from your main language department, and then you can pick from among ELCS courses, that means courses offered by the School of European Languages and Cultures, and maybe now you can choose also some courses offered by SEAS, that is School of Eastern European Studies. But then again, you should check the website. So in the first year, I had the core course. It was compulsory for everyone in the first year who was doing the subject language and culture. So we basically explored many cultural disciplines. So we did culture studies, gender studies, translation studies, linguistics, and yada yada. I mean, on one hand, the disciplines we talked about were interesting, but because we only had a year to cover that, it didn't really go in depth, and I felt it really didn't give me as much as I had expected. So maybe things have changed. I don't know. Things always change. So I think you only have this subject for a year, so you will see. Maybe it will spark your interest, maybe not. Then I had obviously my main language, which was Spanish. So I attended courses related to Spanish language, which means I did summaries, translations to Spanish, as well as oral classes. So we had speaking and it was 3 times a week. So it wasn't really intensive, but it was expected of us to, devote our free time to studying the language, like outside classes. So, it wasn't as not intensive as in school. Then I had my minor language, which was Arabic, and I did Arabic at the language center. So there were other people from other courses who also picked, a language because their study plan allowed it. What else did I have? Yes, and then I had this, course related to the history and literatures of Central and South America, obviously Spanish-speaking countries. So what we did was that we studied some literatures related to the Mexican Revolution, these things that were making modern Latin American literatures again in Spanish. So from the first year, we were studying the literatures in their original languages, in Spanish, which was good because it improves your reading skills, and you need to be able to read in the original language anyway by the time you graduate, so it's obviously good when you have that exposure. And then I had an ELKS course. It was Introduction to Linguistics, I think, and it was actually only one term, but we covered the basics of linguistics, and I really enjoyed it. So I decided to stick to linguistics for the rest of my degree, more or less. An important thing to note is that even though only that the first year results do count, but they only have a small weight, but you should still try to do your best in your first year exams, and not just exams like essays and any other assignments throughout the year, because even though it doesn't count that much towards your final grade, it does have an impact on the courses you would be able to take in your second year. So if you don't have the best results, it might prevent you from taking courses, oversubscribed courses you really want to take. So if I were you, I would really focus on my courses at the School of European Languages and Cultures, because they do really count towards this, and I would try to do my best so that I have a really good standing. Now, second year, the thing you can do, and that's when this flexibility comes in handy, is that you can switch languages. So what you can do is that you retain your main language and your minor language. Another option is that you switch your minor language, and the third option is that you switch your minor language to your major language and vice versa. So what I did was that I changed my minor language. I dropped Arabic and I took Romanian. Again, Arabic can only be studied as a minor language at UCL because we don't really have Arabic department. You can't study it as a major language. Now there are people who did, I don't know, who had Spanish as their major language and Russian as their minor language, so they switched it. So they did Russian as their major language for the rest of their degree, and Spanish was their minor language. And there are people who, just as me, switched their minor languages, or actually they picked another language, and there are people who stuck to their options. So we didn't have any core course in our second year, but I think it has changed since then. I think you would have like one term core course again, not the full year course, but only half a year. So what we had instead was again our major language, in my case Spanish, and again like 3 hours a week of translation, speaking and writing. Then we had a course related to our main language, so I had women's literature, Spanish, realism, Spanish realism. Then I had ALKS courses. I did have historical linguistics. I had history of art and European philosophy. And then I had Romanian. Now second year weights more in your degree classification, but when you apply for your year abroad, I think that only your first year counts. So again, you prepare for your year abroad and you go to a destination where your main language is spoken. I'm not sure what it is like for people that do dead languages like Old Greek or Latin, but for us that did like modern languages like Hebrew or Spanish or Russian or anything like that, we had to go to that destination. So you choose your 2 destinations, like first choice and second choice, and if you don't get to your first choice, then you are offered your second choice. I'm not sure if, it would really depend on what your popular destinations are, like if they are heavily oversubscribed, because when I was applying for year abroad options, there were Madrid and Barcelona as the most popular choices, but I chose, I think it was Granada and Cordoba, I think, I don't know, something in Andalusia, in southern Spain, I think, yeah. So you choose your abroad destination. I think the good thing about picking Spain in my case was that if you go to a country that is a member of the European Union, now it might have changed after Brexit, I don't know, you are offered a bursary provided by the European Union. So it's really useful because you can use it to pay your bills while you are abroad. And when you go to other destinations, I'm not sure if it is really offered, and you might pay some fees towards that university. So it's better to go to a university that has established links with UCL. and it's obviously good to go to Europe. Now I know that in some cases it is not possible because your language isn't spoken in Europe, or I don't know, you really want to go outside Europe, so obviously you are free to go. So if you really want to go, then obviously do. And while you are abroad, um, I went to university, and I think my degree only permitted us to either study at a university or do a language assistantship. But language assistantship was only available to native speakers of English, and I'm not a native speaker, so I could only go to a university. People from other language degrees were able to do a job like work throughout their year, but I studied at the University of Granada to be precise, and I was also working on my year abroad project. Now, what this project entails is that you write in your main language. Maybe it's different for CES courses. I think they allow their students to write in English, but for us it was like we had to write in our main language, in Spanish in my case. So I wrote on students' books of Spanish for pupils, like about specific things that were mentioned in the students' books. And I also attended classes, obviously. Now, you're abroad, it can be good, it can be bad. At least you live in another country, and you get to know what it is like there. So that's a really good part about it. And it the courses don't really count towards your grade, your final grade, your degree classification, so you don't need to worry too much about it. But obviously you should pass all your courses. But if you manage to fail like one or two, usually you just send in your notes, and they tell you like, okay, we know you have really tried, so we will let you progress to your final year, so it should be fine. And then you have your final year, so you obviously have your main language, then you do subjects again related to your main language, so that means literatures in Spanish, Spanish culture, these things. And then you can choose to stick to your second language, but you don't need to. I decided to again stick to Romanian. Then you have the option to choose other ELCS courses or CES courses. I didn't choose any. And then you can do a dissertation. I decided to pick dissertation because I really wanted to write something, and I felt it was really flexible, because if you do classes, you need to be somewhere at a given time, and not only that, you also need to sit exams, write essays, etc. And I felt that writing a dissertation would be more flexible, and it really was, and I really enjoyed it. So your final year does count, like the whole year counts, not just your best grades, like your best courses, but the whole. But unlike at Oxford, I believe, your previous years do count as well. So the good thing is that if you mess up in your final year, you can still hold on to your previous years, whereas if only your final year counts, then your previous years do not count, and if you mess up, then it's not really good. But then again, some people may progress over the years and they are not really happy if their first year or second year counts. So, it's pretty individual, but I was really happy that, my previous years counted. Not that my final year result was bad, but, I was still satisfied with the fact that I knew that in case I messed up, I knew I could hold on to my previous results. So then I graduated, and there were also my classmates who graduated successfully, and what we went to do afterwards. Now, some people, including myself, went for our master's degrees, at various universities, but even very prestigious universities, and not only for degrees related to languages, but for other disciplines. Like I went to do linguistics, some people went on to do anthropology or international relations, I think, and various degrees. And some people decided to start working. Some people did TEFL courses during their time at UCL. TEFL is teaching English as a foreign language. So they went abroad and taught children English as their second language. I think one of my colleagues went to journalism. He moved to Germany and started working as a journalist. And there are probably other options as well. But the good thing is that you gain fluency in your main language. Then you have some knowledge of your minor language or languages in case you do more than one minor language. You have some intercultural understanding, you have a degree, and you really show you are flexible and able to survive in a foreign environment because you go on your year abroad, and these things are very transferable to employers, not just in the UK but abroad as well. So I think that's a really good thing about the degree, because it gives you many options, and it really teaches you transferable skills, and it really teaches you about the world we live in, about their literatures, cultures, and other things. So in general, I would say it's a really good degree, and there might have been some minor changes, but in general I still think that the degree is very flexible and very relevant. So if you really want to study this degree, then definitely do apply. I strongly recommend it, and it really gave me options that I wouldn't have been able to access otherwise. So really do consider this course, and if you decide to apply or even study it, then good luck with your application and studies, and enjoy your day, and hopefully see you soon. Goodbye.